Okay, Michelle, we are back for episode 4 of our musical season. So if you're new to this podcast, our first season is focused on films that we grew up watching or that are dubbed our family favorites. But we definitely have kind of a catalog of movies that Michelle and I grew up watching with our sisters that other people will always be like, I've never seen that movie. I think Chitty Chitty Bang Bang falls into that realm. There are quite a lot of people who have seen it. When I asked Dom today if he has, he said absolutely not. You're the only person that I know who has seen this movie. So we could be very alone in this adventure of this recording, but to be honest, I'm completely fine with it. I think I need to get back on Letterboxd for the sole purpose of putting this in my top 5. Can I just get this out of the way that I turned it on last night and I paused it for a second just to see how long it was. And it said 2 hours and 24 minutes. And I audibly said, wow, I was not expecting that. I think before I sat down to watch it, I was like, okay, I remember it being long. Don't remember there being an intermission, which is, just really ambitious for the filmmakers. This is a G-rated children's movie and they made it over 2 hours, but they committed and bravo to them.
I read that this was the last children's movie that was made that was this long, and the one that finally beat out this runtime was one of the Harry Potters.
They just got away with a lot in 1968, which we will, in every section, talk about what they got away with. Michelle, we have a 10-year age gap. In this episode, you're going to educate me on how this movie came into our lives. All I can tell you is that we had it on VHS. It was not the poster that if you Google it, it comes up. It was a different version of that. And I hope that it's, mom and dad don't throw out a lot of things. So I'm hoping that it's somewhere in their basement.
They have it. They definitely have
it, right? Yeah. Okay. Well, you're going to give me a little memory lesson here. How did this movie come to be into our lives?
I wish I could remember the first time that I watched this or who introduced it to us, but Mary Poppins was one of my favorite movies from a very young age. I think that I was predisposed to love it because it has so many of the same elements. We'll get into more of the details of it. I didn't realize logistically how many of the same elements are the same as Mary Poppins, but I think I have more of a memory of renting this all the time. So we must have gotten the VHS at some point later down the road. I think that I have a roster of movie musicals that I would constantly, every time we went to the library or to Blockbuster, I would want to rent them. And this was on that list.
I really wish that Allison was a sister that when you called her on demand that she would pick up, but she's not that. I'm sorry, Al. Can you confirm if we have on video us performing to the Old Bamboo?
I don't think so. You have a memory of that?
Well, this is the debate in my mind. I think that I just used to perform that song using whatever broom or item that we had handy in our house. Maybe Nanuta's cane at times. Yeah. Anything that was a stick turned into that performance.
Yeah.
I did not realize until I just watched it this time how integral it was into my fantasy mind as a child, because I have very distinct memories of sitting on the beach in Cape Cod with seashells singing Truly Scrumptious, pretending that I was on an English beachside picnic. So yeah, so many felt like it came crashing down on me. I had no warning. Also, shout out to Tubi because I had no ads on this last night. Better than all the streaming networks I've been using that have ads every 4 seconds. So I had a lovely experience watching this. I will get into the part that I fell asleep with and had to rewatch before this recording. But
there's always one. There's always Laura's sleepy corner.
Yes.
Okay, so I made the poor choice. I really love Pluto TV. I watch Frasier on it a lot and I Love Lucy sometimes. So I thought, it's on Pluto, I'll watch it on Pluto. Pluto did have commercials every 5 minutes. And it took me I had to do my own intermission and come back and finish it later in the evening. And all in all, I think it may have taken me 5 hours.
I think that we need to bring back intermissions. If they're going to keep making us watch 4-hour movies, it's time. It's time for intermissions. Yeah. Any other Memories, thoughts?
I have something that I guess let's talk about here in the opening section. This is not something that we do in a lot of episodes, but I want to talk a little bit about the production stuff. I said before that this feels a little bit kind of like a cousin to Mary Poppins. And of course, we have Dick Van Dyke in the lead male role. This was written for Julie Andrews. I'm personally kind of happy that she didn't do it. I think that Sally Ann House did a great job. And I think that it also would have felt too much like it was like trying to copy Mary Poppins, because I never had that thought when I was a kid. I thought this is its own movie. It just happens to have the same actor in it.
I think it's sometimes better to leave what worked in a, not trying to replicate it. I haven't seen this actress in anything else, but they feel very much one and the same. I think Julie Andrews has a little bit different of a disposition, but I don't think it would have changed anything dramatically.
It took me till maybe like a quarter of the way through rewatching this yesterday that I was like, who wrote this? This music is fantastic. Who wrote the music for this? I must know. And then when I looked it up, I'm like, oh, all of this makes so much sense now. The music was written by the Sherman Brothers, who not only did the music for Mary Poppins, but so many notable Disney things. They wrote It's a Small World song, and they wrote Great Big Beautiful Tomorrow, that's on the Carousel of Progress ride. The Sherman Brothers know the way to my heart. If this is your first episode, I'll give a little preview that at the end of these episodes, we do these made-up dinner parties that is usually a random assortment of characters brought together, and we talk about what we're going to serve them at dinner. And I feel like the creative team that made this movie would make the most epic dinner party, because not only do we've got Dick Van Dyke, we have the Sherman Brothers coming back, and then we have Ian Fleming, who wrote the Chitty Chitty Bang Bang book, and Albert Broccoli, who
real name
looked
it up,
who produced all of the Bond movies that were also created by Ian Fleming. So we have these two guys now coming into the table. So we have like the Mary Poppins crew, we have the Bonds crew, and then this is our black sheep swooping in. The person who co-wrote this script is Roald Dahl, writer of many beloved children's stories. Shout out to our Matilda episode. Look it up in our archives. I'm just trying to picture all of these people working together.
I'll just leave it here. What a line that Grandpa Pot says at the end. He's very eccentric. This is an eccentric group of creators, and we may need to have a special creator dinner party for this. Before we get into all of the good stuff, my initial thoughts as soon as I turned on this movie was, wow, whoever made this movie really likes cars and racing. And when Albert Broccoli came into play, it just all made sense. They needed to go through 3 different races in different countries, which I was impressed. Didn't even think twice about it growing up.
We usually also don't go chronologically, but I feel like here we have to start at the beginning, because the opening credits
over 2 hours.
They really set the tone for what this movie is going to be. It's like 10 minutes long. It's very involved, and it's almost like Chitty gets this little short. We get her whole backstory, which is
we know everything
extensive.
That we need to know. I know a lot of trauma. Okay. A girl almost died at her expense. She lit on fire.
Like when you see like the first race and then you see the second one, you're like, this is cool. Like this car has been like in a couple races. And then once they get to like the 5th one and the credits are still rolling. But you know what? It makes sense because there are so many people in this movie, and there were so many people who you needed the amount of people to work to make this movie.
Yeah.
I mean, all of this makes sense that the credits are so long in the beginning.
It does. I feel like this was almost equivalent to a non-smoking ad to warn people not to race. Because I still think about in current day, like NASCAR and racing, big thing. I think it would have been much more exciting back in the day. So unsafe. And people are almost dying and getting lit on fire. So I understood the thrill, but it felt like a warning sign.
They put so much work into it. I don't know how much that unit costs, to film that whole beginning section, but they really should have maybe repurposed it for like a safety ad or something.
Safety ad, yeah. Okay. I know nothing about cars. If there was anything that needed fixing on my car, you know how we're slowly and slowly just losing like general knowledge that we should know, like changing a light bulb. I could not be further away from being useful when it comes to cars. But I really just appreciated like the design of the cars in this film, specifically Truly's car.
Love
And I
Truly's
had
car.
these memories where I was like, oh, this is like a beautiful extension of her. And even though she drives it into a river three separate times in this movie, I was having this thought like, I really wish that we were still driving around these cars. What a joy. Can you imagine like getting picked up in one of those?
I feel like I need to insert the quote where he says, if a woman is to drive a motor car, she should learn to operate it correctly.
Yes. Okay. Mr. Potts.
Things that have not aged well.
Yeah.
Put that at the top of the list.
Mr. Potts has not aged well, which we will get into. But do you agree? Do you have a preference between the vehicles? Would you pick Truly's car or Chitty?
Oh, I like Truly's car because it's yellow, but Chitty has that nice red
I was just going to say,
interior
Michelle
that
loves
looks
the
like
red seats.
It looks like a booth in like a nice restaurant. And I also like the wood that's reminiscent almost of like a Chris Craft, like a boat, like a nice boat. So I like those two elements, but I'll save. I have a little bit of shade that I'll save.
Okay.
For the end. How about you?
I like to believe that I was a rich woman in my past life, maybe during this time period. And I think that I own both those cars. So like sometimes I would take out the yellow one, and when I was going out for a nice dinner with the gals, I would drive the boat.
Yeah, the boat / flying car. Yeah.
This movie is extremely chaotic. There's a lot going on. But let's start from the beginning. I completely blacked out the memory of Mr. Goggins. Is it Mr. Goggins or Mr. Goggins?
It's Mr. Goggins. Put him down the road.
Just so I'll jump to something I didn't like. I wanted more of Mr. Goggins. He should have been in the whole movie.
There's so many minor characters in this movie, and they all get like a scene, and that's it. And then they don't repurpose them. On that note, we also, in the Mr. Coggins scene in the beginning, meet the junk man, and I love how Jemima refers to him as a nasty man. I had this little jolt when he gets on his buggy and is about to take off that I was like, oh, this almost looks like the child catcher's vehicle. And you know how like in a lot of movies, like they do this in Wizard of Oz and they do this in Peter Pan, in the like live action Peter Pan, where they kind of have characters play two different characters. So you meet them in the beginning and then they kind of appear in like the fantasy version. And I was like, wow, what a missed opportunity. The junk man totally could have been the child catcher.
I know.
Easily.
And the king could have been Lord Scrumptious.
Yes.
The fact that he's
a
lord.
Yes.
They paid Dick Van Dyke a lot of money for this movie. And I think that they just had a lot of money to have a lot of different actors. So they just were like, you know what? Maybe there'll be a memory. But that was a miss. Although I did love the king. So
yeah,
it was a good choice.
Yeah.
Who also was in the Bond films, apparently.
Okay.
I'm not a big, I do have ambitions to like go and watch all the Bond movies. I'm gonna put that on my list. Maybe that will be a season down the road.
Also something that we never talk about, and I think that both of us are kind of bored by numbers, but the more I started writing down and noticing like how elaborate everything in this movie is, I was like, how much did it cost to make this? And the answer is somewhere between 10 and 12 million. But this movie, I guess, is not known for being successful because it lost money. It only made $7 million. And I needed some kind of parameter because that almost means nothing to me. I mean, I understand logistically that they lost money, but I was like, okay, but how much did Mary Poppins cost to make? So in comparison, Mary Poppins cost half of this, somewhere between 4 and 6 million, and made $103 million at the box office. So I get why maybe, you know, big picture, long term, this movie is not as popular or isn't deemed as successful.
We needed Julie. We needed her.
Well, then what would the budget have been if she was in it? I don't know. Maybe it would have been more, but
I know.
I love this budget, and I love that they used all of it.
I know. I would have loved to just been on the crew for this so I could go to all these, places in the UK. And I think it was partially filmed in Germany.
It was.
I don't know. They had castles, they had beaches. They were not holding back with the sets.
Not at all.
So it was pretty great. I want to take a whole section to talk about Jeremy and Jemima, because I think of movies that we've done, if there's kids in it, usually they're kind of an afterthought. But this was like introducing the two actors. I don't think that they went on to do many other things. I thought they were great. I know there's a lot of screaming, but great voices, not too annoying. Sometimes I'm like, I cannot but adorable. And Jemima very much reminds me of our niece Juliana. Like, I think she 1000% could have played this role.
I had all the exact same thoughts. Not annoying, so cute, love their little accents. And even in this, I knew you mentioned like a little like screaming. I felt that kind of added to it a little bit. You used the word chaotic earlier. I think that that's so funny when executed well, when there are so many different kind of layers and things going on in a scene at the same time, but they all complement each other. So there are a couple instances, especially in the earliest scenes of this movie, where they're honking on the horn and the kids are yelling, and the rocket scene at the beginning when the dog is running around. I love that so much.
I know. Yeah, I think that they do, introducing them, great character introduction, but fantastic character introduction of Mr. Potts. I mean, can you ask for anything more? Also, just fantastic character introduction of Grandpa Potts as well. You are more in the world of like Dick Van Dyke. Like, you've probably seen other things that he has made. Do you feel like he was well cast for this role? And do you also feel like you wanted to spend more time with him or other characters in this movie?
Well, I feel like I'm just coming off the high of just being reintroduced to this movie. So I'm going to go as far as to say this may be my favorite thing that he's in. And I mean, and he's been in a lot of good things. It uses his range. Like, we see him getting to be serious. We're seeing him be funny. We're seeing him dance, get some physical comedy. Yeah, I don't know. I think he's used just the right amount. And
yeah,
I know, as much as I joked about it before, that there are like a million like secondary characters that are just, in there for a scene or two. But I love all of that. I love townsfolk.
Yeah, I was having this thought that they really ask a lot of the actors in this movie. They have to wear a lot of hats, literally and figuratively. So I was blown away. Specifically when he becomes a doll. I was fooled. You could have had me fooled. I mean, just bravo.
It seems like this would be a really fun role to play. And I did read a little few behind the scenes things. The two that stuck out with me the most is that I think that he's in his early 40s, so around my age when he's playing this part. The guy who plays the grandpa is like same age. The two of them are, I think, only a few months apart. And I was like, wow, these two guys are my age. I cannot wrap my head around that. But I think that this was the first project that Dick Van Dyke had worked on where he was starting to feel some of the physical effects of dancing. There was a quote that said that he had never really warmed up before he started dancing. Also, that he was smoking like a lot of cigarettes per day. And during this filming, he went to the doctor, who told him that he has a lot of arthritis in his body, and that he really needed to slow down, and he was starting to deteriorate. And here we are in the year 2025. Dick Van Dyke is still alive,
still with us,
and literally kicking. He is still dancing.
Keep dancing. I know. I was very much in a dancing mood after watching this movie. Great dance numbers. Okay, I know I've been hijacking a little bit by doing chronologically, but Michelle, I want to give you the floor. Hit me with the things you love the most.
I've kind of been talking about this throughout, but I'll just come out and say it in a sentence. This is a really epic movie. It is doing so many things. It is going big with everything. It's going big with the acting. It's going big with the costumes. It's going big with the sets. Laura, you mentioned they film a bunch of this on location, which is not cheap to do, and it is not easy either. They're in the UK, they're in Germany, they're in castles. They also are doing stuff on sound stages and the sets and the props that are involved are so detailed. I first took notice of it in the scene where were first introduced to like the Potts' house, and all the little their little plates and their shelves and the fireplace. Laura and I don't know if we've ever brought this up on mic, and no shade, if you ever want to sponsor us, we will incorporate you in a positive way. But we have this thing now that anytime we're like watching something and it looks like the set is cheaply made, we say, oh, it looks like they bought these props at Wayfair. Wayfair is great. I own a lot of their products, but when you're dressing a movie set, you don't want to be spotting things that you yourself can buy. I like to think that they are sourcing from different, antique stores and just warehouses and kind of like hobbling something together. And they do that so well inside the house, inside his workshop. Another scene that I was like, wow, this is so intricate is the fair scene. Like, forget the old bamboo number, which is like distracting us from everything else that goes on. There are so many extras, and they have rides. I mean,
I know. It makes sense why it was this expensive. Yeah.
And again, like, this is not something that I typically care about. Like you, I'm not really a car person, but they did build 6 different Chitty Chitties for this. I mean, they had to, but the thing that blew me away is that they also built, that the Baron is up in
a blimp.
It's not quite a blimp. They call it like I don't know, whatever it was.
I just call it the Baron's blimp.
The Baron's blimp.
It just sounds fun.
An airship. So the way that I guess it was written, or that Roald Dahl described it, was something that didn't actually exist in real life. I don't know if it was the logistics of it or like the shape of the balloon part, but they built a real working version of it for this movie. It's like, it's so unnecessary, but I love that they did that.
Also, Grandpa's hut. There's details. He has like a little painting in there. I feel like I know everything about him just by that hut.
You hate phony looking sets. You have to love the sets in this movie.
Please the sets in this movie. I even love the green screen scenes. I'm like, bring them on. This is fun. It made me feel like similar to Mary Poppins, where they had some of like the animations, which a little bit different. But I'm always so blown away by the Scrumptious Factory. I have so many questions. How did they build this? The pots that they had to bring in for all the juices that they were making, they really committed. Think about all the dogs that they had together. I hope that they had they
had a dog budget.
I know, they had a dog budget and probably needed someone to take care of like animal cruelty, but there were a lot of questions that I was having. I know this was made in 1968 and it was supposed to take place earlier, but it just seems like you were saying these things didn't exist, that they had like the tools to pull off some of the things that they included in this movie. This is a little off topic, but the last 2 weeks, my friends and I have been writing down our dreams and like talking about them in the morning. And this is obviously kind of like a dream sequence where, something that's not actually there. But this movie really does feel like a fever dream. Like, yes. It just feels so random, yet makes sense. And like you're saying, they do good callbacks of like showing us like characters and then showing them later on in whatever the dream world or fable that he's bringing up. But they do a good job, I feel like, of creating these sets that don't feel real yet are real. I think this is like very normal for kids' movies, but there's so many things that I just never questioned. Like, I always thought in my mind that the entire like Bulgaria sequence was real, even though they cut to it at the end, or I just didn't think about it. And I know maybe it's not like a necessarily like an overt theme, but I do feel like this movie brings out a lot of like encouraging like creativity of like kids and like imagination, which I think that we are lacking today.
I felt that deeply, Laura. I mean, from the very beginning, where we see the kids just playing and they are treating it like it's a playground and they are using their imagination, that very much reminded me. I feel like Izzy and William, our niece and nephew, like play a lot like that. They do a lot of kind of like imagination type playing, but then also how encouraging that they are to their dad, and then how he kind of like mirrors it back to them. Like I feel like they have a really very sweet, supportive relationship. This is so subtle and I'm going so deep, but the Roses of Success song, I'm like, this could be my new hype song. I'm like, this is really encouraging.
I know, it really is. I know. We need more imagination.
Yes. But okay, so you mentioned that you didn't really, as a kid, understand that there is like a story within this story and that story was not actually happening.
The idea that grandpa is using his hut as like a time travel or to go to different places, which doesn't make any sense. But in my mind, girl, I was like, oh yeah, grandpa's going to Alaska, or he just got back from China.
I kind of had the same thought where I was kind of like, I didn't know whether or not he was serious, but it didn't really matter. And same with this storybook sequence. But now as an adult and as a writer, what did you think of that framing? Did that work for you? Or were you like, it still doesn't matter?
I guess they did consciously do this, but it's a very like imaginative movie, you know?
Yeah.
It's not real, but it's like also plays off the fact that he's like an inventor and he's constantly using his imagination to create things. So it's like the fact that he was able to create this grand story, which is like the last 40 minutes of the movie, which is crazy because that's always the part of the movie that you associate with this movie, not the beginning, which is like an hour and a half.
I was trying to think about, do they do this in other movies? The only other movie that I could just think of off the top of my head was The Princess Bride, where he's, the grandpa's reading the story to his grandson, but they're not in the story. I think that that's kind of what makes this special. And the reason why as kids we were it was ambiguous about whether it was real or not, because he writes them into the story. And a lot of the things that are happening, especially with like his and Truly's relationship is echoing what does happen in real life. So
yeah,
I love that.
I also love the subtle transition that he just starts telling the story and then they immediately are in the water, because there's no like cut to with like a dream. It's just they do
a little dreamy transition thing. I just noticed it this time. I don't know that I've always, it's subtle.
Yeah.
But when they first get to the beach, the seaside picnic, because I remember that line that he has about like the tide coming in. So as soon as they got there and where they parked, it was like, oh, they set this up really well. Like this could happen. They're in this little section of beach where they could get covered by the tide if they get distracted.
And
so
they love moments of having their cars in water in this movie.
Oh yeah, they're all about it.
The swamp to the water. There's so many things that they did not need to include, like you said, the affair. But now watching it, I'm like, oh my God, this would be such a miss if it wasn't there. The spies? Spies are probably the best, some of the best 20 minutes of the movie. It feels very much like a ventriloquist, like movie from, like Charlie Chaplin era where they're speeding things up. And it's so disjointed with the rest of the movie. But I would be so upset if that part didn't exist. Like they really committed to that. He was like, I'm including this as part of the dream that they're also going to stalk us back in our regular life. And then grandpa's going to get stolen. And then we're going to go to Bulgaria, because they could have easily just done that. They were in the water and then they end up in Bulgaria from there, because that's like their introduction. But the fact that they send the spies with their little tubes.
I also wrote a paragraph about the spies. I love this, as you said, this kind of like callback to the inept gangster trope, but they are doing a lot of physical comedy, like a lot of, kind of like Marx Brothers. It was really fun that they kept it in. And like you said, like the Baron has so many people working for him. They definitely didn't need like these two guys too, but
no.
They had to capture Lord Scrumptious by accident, and they kept going. Yeah,
that was necessary. Yeah, they did not give in. Then they had to bring the blimp in with their walkie-talkie.
Their costumes, alone, must have been like a huge chunk of the costume budget. They had like 4 different looks, and like you said, they're barely in it.
I think one of the best outfits in the movie is when they're like, we're in Britain, we have to look like Englishmen, and they're just magically in these like ridiculous suits with the pipes.
And they even come up with little like fake names for themselves. So good.
So I think that we actually are, if we were going in chronological order, can we just talk about, we need a section about Grandpa.
Please.
Grandpa Potts. I mean, just Michelle is dressed up like Grandpa Potts, but he is unlike any character I've ever met in any movie. Makes no sense. Don't know anything about the man, yet know everything I need to know about him. Debatably, some of the best costumes in the movie, which I do want to dedicate some time to. But if you had to pick a favorite Grandpa Potts costume, which one would it be?
I mean, I'm kind of partial to the one I'm wearing.
Yeah.
I do. Earlier, we were texting about it, and I think the fur coat. I think the timing of when they reveal him in the fur coat is perfect, because if we started there, it wouldn't have been as funny.
Yeah.
But we kind of see these, like, you know, he's dressed in just, you know, a little bit of like a ragtag of like what I'm wearing now, like a scarf, similar to Caractacus. Yeah. But then we see him in his, when he's off to India, and then it's more of a military look with a helmet.
Of course.
And then when he says he's going off to Alaska, he's in a full fur coat and hat, I believe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And walking poles.
Yep. What do you think the story is there? Do you think that he's just gone crazy from being in war, and then he got home and he's like, I'm just going to make this hut? Is that the backstory that you're telling yourself? Okay.
That's exactly it.
Yeah. Okay. That feels right.
I don't want to be too sad about it, though, because you know what? Like, he seems like he's a happy guy.
Yeah. He can read the Bring Big Brown Bear Went Bowling. I can't even remember.
I feel like Allison loves, our sister Allison.
Oh my gosh. She used to say that all the time. I know. People are going to be listening to this. Like, you guys are insane. But yeah, he's also like, I kind of love this little like nuclear family of the grandpa and the dad. Family. It's so sweet. They are just inventing things. They're reading books. I love it.
And I love that the grandpa both doesn't support his son, but clearly loves him so much. Really, in the end, does support him. Yeah.
I did like that the grandpa wasn't too much of a small supporting role, that they incorporated him into the dream, because he just makes so many parts of it where he's like aloof but knows what's going on, but he doesn't understand how he like ended up in this situation. Specifically, like the decision that they made with the hut is just like, they could have easily just kidnapped him. We're like, we're kidnapping you because we think you're Mr. Potts and you're going to come home with us. Like, they decided to take a hook and take him from the hut. That was a really hilarious decision to include as part of the plot.
I like how you described him as both like aloof but didn't know what was going on. And I felt like that we got a visual of that. We saw so many shots of him. I think in the scene where he gets kidnapped, he might have his like army helmet on, and there are a lot of scenes where he's kind of like, it's so far down on his head and he could barely see over it, and he's like half, and that's exactly it. He half knows what's happening to him.
And even though he, you know, when he first arrives in Bulgaria, I do like that plot line where he's like the roses song.
Success.
Yeah, and he's just with all these like older inventors, which I think is so funny. But I always love when a character like kind of becomes friends with the villain, but not purposely. I just love that type of comedy. So like when they're kind of in the car together and he like shoots down his wife, the Baroness.
Yeah, that scene is really good. I have to say, I have more to say on that. I'll save it for the next section.
Yeah. Let's talk about Bulgaria, the elephant in the room.
To start, until yesterday, I had also been calling it Bulgaria. It is Vulgaria. With a V, which I get because they're trying to play it off of like vulgar. I keep reading it as like a female body part, which I don't like.
Okay.
Oh, and I don't think that that's what they're trying to do. At least I didn't read anywhere that that's what they were trying to do.
Oh, so they literally, like, the name of the country in the movie is Vulgaria.
Everything I thought I knew about Bulgaria was from this movie, and now I learned that it's not even that. So
Yeah.
I don't know. There is a cute little call out that it does almost feel like a little Bonds-ish when they land, when like the airship lands, and they have a little staircase to get them down from it, and it says like vulgaire along the side of the stairs.
Yeah. They committed. They were
really
not worried
committed.
about budget.
Not
Someone
at all.
was like, I don't care, spend the money. We need this as part of it.
Fever dream, Laura, the perfect way to describe, I mean, this whole movie, but specifically this part of it. I don't even know what to make of it. I really
no
don't.
idea what to make of it. I think the full, like, you know, up until this part, pretty happy-go-lucky film, you know. Oh, he doesn't have money, but he's an inventor. His kids are happy. They got some eggs and sausage. Like, they're doing okay. And then it just takes such a turn with the bad guy and the child catcher and the childless town. Terrifying. So out there, but it really it feels like a dream sequence. You're like, I'm dreaming. This is so weird. I was in this town where there was no children, and then there was a child catcher who can smell them, and he has candy, and then the kids are living in the caves, and then there's a birthday party that looks like it's from the Hunger Games at like the Capitol, and then, you know, there's a blimp, and then there's a woman who's in like, you know, her lingerie for her husband. Like, there's all these elements that don't make sense, and it's so chaotic, yet I just fully accepted it as a child, and I fully accepted it. I was in, and no notes. I just like, whatever they decided, it's like they made me drink the Kool-Aid, and I'm accepting of it.
I can't really follow that up, but I do have a question. Why did everyone who was like in the castle that the Baron and Baroness wanted to hang out with, was there a reason that they were all like almost looked like dead, like that they you know, came back from the dead or something? Was that supposed to
I kind of took it as like the time period. If you watch a lot of, you know, shows that, I don't know what time period it would have taken. It's kind of unclear when this is taking place.
I think it's supposed to be like, I mean, are you talking about this part, or are you talking about
like I'm thinking about this
movie
part, that it's kind of like when you have like the townspeople who are being taken advantage by like the government, and then it's like all of their rich friends that are just wearing these like crazy, very campy outfits and have all this money. I didn't really think they were dead. I think they were just like supposed to be really, keep using the word eccentric, but eccentric.
Okay. Yeah, that works. Yeah, there were also some like great lines. I love the guy who shows him the clock and says like, you're early, and then there are the guys who are playing pool. It's just like a weird, it's weird. All so weird.
I know, like the toy maker. I know, maybe I need to think a little bit more into this before I say this, but I feel like there's a lot of movies that have made during this time, and they're like weirdly like sexualized, that are like supposed to go over kids' heads. There's definitely some weird parts in this, but I actually think it's like a pretty G movie. Like, I don't think it, like, they're trying to like slip in weird things, or it feels like there were people being taken advantage of from what it comes off on, like, on the screen. It just, again, feels very like weird and dreamlike, and like maybe some of them had access to a joint while they were, you know, making this movie, but other than that, they were just using their imagination.
Yeah, Jimmy happened to come in the room right in the Chuchi face scene, and he was like, what? He's like, I thought you said this was a kid's movie. He's like, what is this?
I know.
But it does feel like very out of place, but
yeah.
But again, I'm like, fun song.
I'm like, I'm into it. I also love the plot line that he just wants his wife to die, and he just keeps trying to kill her. So good.
I love that their dynamic. It's fantastic.
I know.
Yeah. I love when she gets catapulted out of the car.
Yeah.
Amazing.
I also love the toy maker. He's another one. Him and Mr. Coggins. I feel like they didn't get enough.
That could have been played by the same person.
Okay, that makes sense. He seemed like a great lad. He's taking care of the kids.
I don't really know much about him, but the actor who plays him, Benny Hill, I guess, is a big deal. He had his own show. I think he was like a comedian from the 60s. So that's fun.
Great toy maker too.
Yeah.
How expensive do you think it was to create those doll chests?
Just the chest. Never mind
just the chest.
Their whole looks.
Yeah. Anything else that you feel like, whereas just top 10.
This is not, we've been pretty much been going in order. This is just to bring it back. I just have one note that the intermission, the cut, where they cut off is them plunging into the water. And then the intermission comes, like the text comes flying in. I was like, shit, this is a cliffhanger. This is literally a cliffhanger. They are hanging off the edge of a cliff. Well done.
I know.
I didn't remember that. I was really impacted by it.
I know. I think that we blacked it out because it was a little traumatic, but
well, because also it's confusing, and I know that other movies do this, but when they come back, they back it up and then bring you back. You're not like suspended at when they come back, and then
they were like, these people are too dumb, or they're not going to remember what happened. Yeah,
like a minute ago. Yeah,
exactly.
I wanted to talk about how funny this movie is. In addition to this being a really good story, I think that the line level writing is great. There are a lot of good jokes, a lot of funny gags. I know we get like some more like old school, like physical gags, but even the moment where he's building Chitty Chitty, and I know we brought up that Grandpa's reading the Big Brown Bear story, but he just comes in and he measures the fireplace hood and just rips it off, and they're just like, yep. And he just walks away with it.
Yes.
And I love that we're getting a glimpse into like, this is just what their normal everyday is like.
I'll preface my notes for what didn't we like. I more so just have like questions, and I did read that Dick Van Dyke said there's a lot of holes in this movie that don't make sense, but I do think, I mentioned this earlier, watching this as a child, I just accepted it all. I felt that the subtle but not subtle announcement of what Mr. Potts's name was very silly, that he announces that his name is Karaticus, because it's such a ridiculous name, but he basically tells Truly to call him Karaticus, and I felt like that was kind of like a throwaway, but who was thinking of this name?
I'm mad at myself that I wasn't able to kind of catch this, but that his name is Caractacus Potts, which kind of equals crackpot.
Okay.
Which is
great.
Makes sense.
Yeah. So again, not so much things I didn't like, but the full like first whatever minutes of the movie, I was like, I don't even know this man's name. He's just Mr. Potts. Who are you? And it would have followed suit because a lot of the other characters are just like Baron, Baroness, Toy Maker.
Yeah,
they don't actually have
catcher.
Yeah.
Junkman.
Makes sense in the theme of it being a dream. I think I just have some, which I wouldn't change because it's just like very of the time, and it's like whatever, of course, if a man is writing this, but I sort of want to believe that truly, like if we had like a sub movie in present day, like she wouldn't have just been this like woman who like needed to be saved. And like they really forced the like motherhood and like marriage on her. They're like, you're our mom now. They're like, we have bonded and now you're our mom. And she seems genuine about it, but we don't really get to know Truly at all. Besides this just like a woman in distress who keeps driving it into swamps. We also have no idea what happened to Mr. Potts' actual wife. They never even say that she passed away. I feel like they do it as a mystery. They're like, we're not telling you. We're just going to insinuate that she's not here anymore. I think that she left because she was like, I'm not dealing with these children who have dirt all over them and holes in their sleeves. And my husband can't even make proper eggs and we have no money. So she's like, I'm out.
I have another theory about what happened to her. I think that she may have gotten killed in a laboratory experiment gone wrong. I bet she blew up or something. Maybe she was the last one to do the rocket takeoff and Truly wasn't there to save her.
You know, as much as Dick Van Dyke is lovely in this movie, he is an arrogant son of a bitch. Like she brings his kids home after he didn't make them go to school, and he's like, you're pompous and you have a big hat and can you leave my house? And I want to be like, Truly give it to him. Like, she's hating on his inventions, which she has a right to be because a lot of them don't really make sense. I also did just want to call out that this season is turning into this theme without us really trying to, but like artists who don't actually have talent.
It's the third time this has happened.
He made a great car by the end of the day, but in my mind, I'm like, was this all just a dream? Like, was he actually just dreaming about like this beautiful car that he made? Because none of his inventions work. Even Toot Sweets was an accident, and he didn't like purposely make it as a whistle. So I think that we can add him in the group with Sophie from Mamma Mia and Jerry from American in Paris and Ryan Gosling. I do want to talk about some of the songs that I didn't like and why. I have to say, not a big fan of Hushabye Mountain. Maybe because it's not much of a bop as the old bamboo. But I do think that sometimes in movies, with musicals, when songs are slow, which is ironic because I love slow songs. I love like slow, sad songs. But I think in movies, this one, I wanted to skip over it. I also don't love the idea of someone like singing me to sleep. I watched the first Hushabye Mountain all the way through last night. And today, when they were in the cave, I was like, wait a minute. I've heard this song before. They needed to include Hushabye Mountain 2 times. They need a call back to Hushabye Mountain.
They're in the mountain.
Yeah, it's true.
I mean,
it was sweet. I also skipped over the entire Truly song where she's singing about Mr. Potts and the trees.
That's an incredible song title. I mean, we're talking about how he's being a dick to her, essentially, this whole movie. And then she sings a song about him called Lovely, Lonely Man.
I know. I wish I was in the writer's room, the songwriter's room where they were coming up with these names. So good.
So were those the only 2 songs that you didn't care for?
Yeah, I'm not actually a big song of the Roses. But I think because I don't love the I think I associate that scene and that song with the scene in Mary Poppins when they're in the bank and there's like all the old men. It seems very similar. And I think it's just this weird thing when I was younger. It's almost like I would lose interest in those because there wasn't like a lot of color and a lot of excitement. So then I just, maybe if I were to be watching these movies for the first time as an adult, that I would appreciate them more because they're more adult, more to think about.
We've gotten comments on other videos before where one of us must have made a comment about a movie being too long. And I just want to make it clear, I am always in for the longest version possible. I love watching extended cuts of movies. Like, give me all of the content and I'll decide if I don't want to watch it or not. So I'm not like suggesting that this movie would be more enjoyable for myself if it was shorter. But if I'm sitting in the editor's seat and I'm editing this for a person with a limited attention span, thinking more of like a 2025 audience, I was trying to think about if I had to cut songs from this movie, what are the ones that would make the most sense to cut? And I had to look at it from a storytelling standpoint, which is like, which of these really has no bearing on the plot? It's not double dipping. It's not being entertaining and it's not moving the plot along. And I was really glad because my initial thought was like, oh no, like Mule Bamboo is really just kind of like fun and entertaining. But no, that is a huge turning point. That's when he gets the money to be able to buy the car. So that one stays. But I had 3 contenders for songs that I thought could be cut. And I was curious if we may be on the same page about them. So I want to hear which 3 you would cut if you had to.
Probably Hushabye Mountain. We can get rid of that. We got
both of them.
Both of them. We got the gist that he cares about his kids. They did the I love you too. I mean, that's like one of the first songs. Probably the Roses song. Like that whole scene wasn't really needed, but we know that you love it and it's a good message. Posh is not needed, but that's my favorite song. Not to jump ahead, but P-O-S-H posh. Like you can't cut out posh. Like we
And
need,
it has an exclamation point at the end of the song title.
Yes.
I looked it up.
We need posh. I mean, probably the 3 songs that I said. I don't think that we necessarily need to see her pining over lovely, lonely man.
I definitely remember like hating Hushabye Mountain as a kid. I was like, this. I think that was the only point in the movie where I was like, please let this end. This is so boring. Both times.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a pretty song. I was now relating it to like the one that they sing in Mary Poppins. Oh, Stay Awake.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was like the Stay Awake for this movie.
Yeah.
Anyway, the 3 that I picked were, so I was between Posh and Grow the Roses because I think Grandpa needs his own song. So one of them has to stay. I felt like Grow the Roses was a little bit more plot informative. Posh was just him hanging out, right?
You're gonna cut Posh? Exclamation point? No. We're not in agreement on this. Debatably one of the best scenes in the whole movie.
I mean, I'm not gonna fight you too hard on it because I love that song. We'll just say one of those 2.
It's like one of the most eccentric songs that they decided because it has the blimp, the hut, him in water, and he's singing the Posh life.
If we can still see him being dropped in the pit with the old inventors, and they could just have a very short conversation.
Yeah.
And them, keeping some of the dialogue where they're like, we've been here forever. We're probably not going to get this done. Maybe someone says something encouraging and then they're like, let's get to work.
Yes.
And then they don't need the song.
I like this.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I'm on board.
I also think that whole thing freaks me out because the thought of being like stuck in a room for 25 years, like trying to work on the same thing is a really unsettling feeling. Little symbolism for how we operate in our workforce today. Just throwing it out there.
Oh.
We just get older, working on the same things.
They stretch you.
Yes, they stretch us thin. They're like, you can do this, you can accomplish something, but we're not working towards an end goal. Just throwing it out there. I always gotta turn things into something that they're not. They're like, no, it's literally just about a room of inventors, Laura. Like, you don't need to turn everything into a metaphor.
All right, so I still have to cut 2 more songs. Lovely Lonely Man. I'm sorry. It has to go. I mean,
we don't even reap the benefits of getting to see Truly's home. At least let us see what's going on.
It's just the lawn and that swing.
I know.
And that's where they cut the budget.
I know.
They were like, we're not showing anything. We'll get a house exterior. We'll get one swing and a big lawn, and that is it.
I feel like they sat down and they said, we either get the scrumptious factory or the scrumptious house, and they had to make a decision.
I think they chose
wisely, yes.
Okay, and the other song that I think that they could cut, but I will be upset if they did, is Chitty Face.
Oh, yeah. Not needed. They just wanted to show the Barons a birthday kink, so I don't know. That's what they were going for. I don't know. Again, not asking questions. I'm like, you know what?
Whatever.
Let them go for it. They went there.
My favorite moment of that song is when she falls through the trapdoor and he's so happy, and then immediately she busts back into the room.
I also love that he tries to kill her with the braid. He's like, this will kill her. So good. I love her. She's fantastic. Is there anything really jarring with this movie that you don't like?
Well, this kind of speaks to something that you were saying earlier about, like, is he actually a good inventor? But I kind of had like, I mean, would really poke a hole in the plot and like the whole point of the movie, but all the kids really did was ask him to save the car from the junk man. They didn't ask him to turn it into a magical car. I think that they were perfectly content just playing in it like they were, like we saw them in the beginning. So I kind of felt a little like, he's like, yeah, I'll get it for you. But he really got it, like, then he made it about him, that rubbed me the wrong way. And I guess the last thing that I wanted to talk just a little bit more about is the child catcher. I think we were all scared of him as a kid. And you know what's funny is, like, I I know a lot of kids are scared of a lot of things in movies, and I'm not saying this to say like, oh, I was like such a brave kid. I don't remember ever like having nightmares about things that I saw in movies or like that I didn't want to watch certain parts of things. So I don't remember ever being like petrified, but he is really, really creepy. And I feel like I feel the same way as a kid as I do as an adult. And Laura, I don't know if you went down this same road, but I always love when they're prominent characters played by actors that I'm not familiar with. So I went and looked him up yesterday and I was like, I would love to know what this guy like actually looks like. And the answer that I found is he looks like the child catcher I don't know if it's all the roles that he's played. I wasn't able to find just like a picture of him like hanging out in his everyday life, but all of the roles that he has played all kind of look like child catcher-esque.
Thinking into it though, it's like whoever was deciding how to make him look as creepy as possible, even the like fake lollipops that they create is just really unsettling. I actually think I was more afraid of like Miss Trunchbull than I was of him, because I think he just seemed so fake to me that he's like this mythical thing. Yeah, we're having a lot of this is the second time in this season where there's been like an adult with candy, and it's like a little spooky.
Well, the first time, are you saying, was Jerry in An American in Paris? Same thing. And you know what?
They're similar energies. Similar energies. Yeah.
Also what I uncovered about this actor, which I don't know, in some ways like it kind of made it more creepy because I'm like, oh, he can kind of like move in unexpected ways.
Yeah.
But his background is more this actor's is more of a dancer, I think, than his some more
yes,
acting
he's
things.
very like light on his feet. I think that his facial expressions in certain moments are the creepiest, like when he's looking through the barred basement and he's looking at them.
That's the moment.
And then he turns away and he like, then they come outside and he knows he has them and he just has this kind of like, here they come. But I love that scene where they like finally catch him in the net and it's like a little bit of a dance.
Yeah, it is
very
fun.
satisfying when all the cave children kill him. Okay, let's get into our favorite songs. We've kind of already hinted at this, and then it'll probably coincide with favorite scenes.
Let me start with my favorite scene. The scene more than the song, but I do really love the song. And I think that it's the song You Two, the one that they sing in the beginning. I think it's really heartwarming, good use of exposition. We're getting to know what the dynamic is with this family. We really know that the kids love the dad and the dad loves the kids, and they're all, they may be all like, ragamuffin-y and dirty, but they're being taken care of. I also love the making of it's actually not breakfast, they're having it for dinner. They're having eggs and sausage for dinner. But again, like someone had to build all of that
semi-functional. Even think about the inventions, yeah.
The inventions. Yeah.
I always love that scene. I know when growing up, it was a very satisfying thing as a kid to like see the invention and see the eggs and the sausage being made. Not to jump ahead to our food section, but also just such a sweet song. I love the like imagery of them all like holding hands. Like they're just like,
yes, I love there are a lot of like very sweet moments within that. I mean, I love that what you just said, the moment where they kind of like the choreography really of them like kind of like all crossing hands and all shaking hands with each other. And I love the moment with the tablecloth over their head and it's like this like yellow gingham and they just look like these like happy glowing kids.
Yeah.
And you're like, they have a good life.
Yeah.
And I'm happy for them.
Yes.
So
lots of joy in the Potts house. Yeah. It's kind of the obvious one, but I just love the Scrumptious Factory scene and Toot Sweets. Great song. Holds up. I would love to like have a modern day remix of that song. I think it was also just such like a weird and interesting thing in inclusion to think about a candy that turned into a whistle, and they like purposely put that into the song. But like the choreography of that entire song is so good. Like they include all the candy trays and like all of the workers in the factory dancing, and like they're using the wheeled trays to like dance around, and then it like ends again with the chaos with the dogs. So it's kind of like this weird ending to this like very perfect and methodical scene, but I just always think that's really fun.
To me, this is like everything that I love about a musical. Like this is like a musical with a capital M.
Mm-hmm.
They're doing all the things. They have dancing, they have singing, they have like the whole, ensemble is involved in
The
it. And
costumes.
the costumes, and like you said, they really make good use of all of those props. To me, like it's not like a true musical number if there's not something on wheels.
Yes.
And I love that they use those, like the multi tray thing that's on wheels, and they're that they spin around on. They use it multiple times. They climb up on top of it, which is not sanitary for the factory, but that's fine. We'll look the other way. Either is the dogs coming in, so it really doesn't even end up mattering. We talked a little bit earlier about like the design of the inside of the factory. It is so perfect. They have like these staircases. It almost looks like steampunk-ish, like something that was like part of like a World's Fair exhibit. And I like how they have the extra layer up top. It's almost like a catwalk that the guys do their little dance on top of. It feels so epic, and I don't know. I don't want to use the word like inspiring, but your heartbeat goes up when you watch that scene. You can't help
just think about like all the minds that had to create that musical number, the song, like incorporating the candy as the whistle, and like even when it slows down and they let Lord Scrumptious play it, and he's like having so much fun with it. It's like they're like turning into kids. But yeah,
and
it's just
colorful.
really, really fun number.
Yeah, really fun.
And also a preface to one of my favorite lines, which is a new line that I've discovered in this movie. So excited to get to it. I never liked the song Posh growing up because I didn't get it. I don't even think I knew what Posh meant. But I think this is the new soundtrack to my life. The traveling life for me.
Traveling life for me.
Posh, Posh with an exclamation point.
I'm glad he had that. He needs this moment.
He needed that moment, yeah.
Could you just imagine trying to describe to someone who's never seen this before? Well, I'm just thinking about them creating this movie and be like, this is what we're going to do. We're going to have him singing this song from his house, which is just looks like an outhouse, hanging off of the airship.
I'm not over the blimp. It is incredible. The music box song.
Do you like the overlapping the two songs together?
Yes. Love it. That, see, Hush by Mountain, get rid of both and just give me more of Truly Scrumptious. And it also is kind of this sweet moment where he's like falling in love with her in this different, doll outfit.
There's tension there.
There's some tension, yeah. He tries to kiss her hand. She's like, no. She's not.
She's like, you're a lonely man.
She's like, you are a lovely, lonely man. But I always loved the inclusion of like her being this like music box doll with like the turning, but such like a good dance number, and it's really fun. And I love when the Baron like starts to dance with him and starts acting silly. But they're both fantastic in that scene. That seemed really difficult to pull off. Not hating on La La Land again, but come on, we're coming off this. They had to do a lot.
The physical parts, like I thought this as a kid, but I think this even more now. Like, I think that's them. Like, I don't think those are like doubles.
No.
And I'm still like, especially Dick Van Dyke as that kind of like, it's almost like a puppet, but without string. Like a puppet
even the way that he like bounces up. I don't know what special effects they were using, but he looked like a doll.
It's incredible.
It was really impressive.
They hired a world-class, I don't know, choreographer or...
I'm like, Ryan Gosling, Dick Van Dyke is still alive. Give him a call. If you need dancing lessons. Take notes.
Such a 180.
I know.
All right, well, speaking of Dick Van Dyke dancing, we have to talk about Me Old Bamboo. A favorite when we were kids. We already said that we think that I'm sure we danced to this. Whether or not we have a recording of it anywhere, I don't know. But
of like a stick in my hand feels primitive. It feels like I know the dance. It feels like I did it a lot. And I really do think that I used Nanutz's cane a lot. I was like, let me borrow that for a second. I gotta do my old bamboo dance.
Two of the things that I really love about this, other than first of all, the song itself is great lyrics, and obviously the dancing is fantastic, very reminiscent of Step in Time, but dare I say maybe better than Step in Time because it's a little bit more contained. Step in Time does kind of like drag on a bit.
It's a little eccentric.
I love this comedy tactic of scenes where someone gets like swept into something or brought into something and they don't know what's going on, but they just fully commit to being a part of it. And I love seeing that unfold with this, where he's so disoriented, but he's like, oh yeah, I could just be in this very complicated choreography dance number and I could do it no problem.
Even though this doesn't have to do with the song itself, I do need to call out that I was having this thought last night of, oh, the scene of the guy getting his hair burnt off reminds me of the scene from Matilda. And it makes sense. I guess Roald Dahl just has something
good call, Laura.
With burned hair and silly haircuts, because very similar.
Wow. Yeah. It's like almost the exact same thing that happens.
His haircut is incredible in this.
I can't believe we didn't talk about that scene, by the way.
So unnecessary.
Cyril.
Completely.
But the performances from Cyril and his wife, 110%.
You know what she's credited as? Lady at the Fair. She doesn't even have a name. She deserves a name. Yeah, and that's a long scene. Like he chases him around the whole fair. He does the sponge scene. Yeah,
it does. But it is necessary because that gets him into that, and then that's the thing that gets him the money. But
yeah,
just one more comment about like the actual choreography and the dancing. It also reminded me so much of, they did this in I Love Lucy a lot because she was always trying to break into the acts, and she finds her way in, but then she doesn't know any of the steps, and she's always like one move behind everybody else. It's so funny to me. I know it's maybe just like kind of like old-fashioned humor, but seeing him do that in this, I know that then it also kind of becomes unrealistic that he catches on that soon.
It's very funny. I kind of mentioned this in the music box songs, but I like Truly Scrumptious. I think it's a sweet song. Like, it could be weird, but I always love the beach scene too. I think that's just like a really sweet, just long moment of the movie, but I wanted to be a part of their picnic.
Also very sophisticated with their lyric choice. The kids' verses have very kid-like descriptions, like they're comparing her to like candies and I don't know,
hit the lollipop fast.
Yeah. And when she sings it, she's singing like, you know, the breeze across the bay, like very something that Truly would sing about. I thought that was like a really nice touch.
Yeah.
Just to give them an honorable mention. We already talked earlier about the two spies. The whole segment with the two spies is a best scene moment for me. Yes. Even though they don't get a song, I would love. Maybe we could steal one of the other songs, "Hushabye Mountain," out.
Both "Hushabye Mountains." If we cut out both, we could have two spy songs. One of them could be when they're in the pipes before they're even revealed. We're like, wow, these people have great voices. I think that's the funniest. Like, that is our introduction to them. Is them in the pipes,
just their little feet.
Is there a favorite scene that you have that doesn't necessarily have to correspond with a song?
I think just them.
Yeah, I think I just love when Grandpa gets like stolen by the blimp, because the Baron is so absurd. Like, everything that he just kept saying, he keeps saying like, I want the car, and like he just wants what he wants. And like, not to get political, but I'm like, the Baron could be Trump. Like, literally, like, he is him.
I want it.
I want it. And he's like, I have all my toys.
The Baron, he's also really showing up. Like, he has all these people working for him, but he's on the ship on the water, on the pirate ship. He's up in the blimp. He's in the car. He's in the castle.
Yes.
He's showing up for work.
He is there. He points at things and he's like, I want that. And then he has a lot of workers. He has a whole army who shows up to his birthday party. I just need to point out my new favorite line from this movie is when Lord Scrumptious is going around and he's like tasting all of the treats. And I used to say all the time, like, oh, raspberry too sweet, but I love the line, prepare the lemon. It's just so simple, yet so direct.
One that the Baron is involved in is a clip that I sent to our sisters last night. I did a little screen recording of it, and it's when they first apprehend the car and they get Grandpa in with them, and they're like trying to get it to fly, and they're just commanding it, and he says, fly, 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 and one of them honks the horn. This isn't really like this like fantastic line, but it did make me laugh when Grandpa says, nasty smelly things, motor cars. And I also love the moment where, again, this little actor has this one moment where they have to push Chitty before he fixes her into the workshop. They have some neighbor that comes in to help them, and I love that Grandpa puts in like the absolute
it's like not even pushing him.
So they're all kind of in a line pushing the car, and he's the last one, and all he's doing is he just has one finger on the back of the guy in front of him.
I know, the neighbor.
I love that so much.
I know, we don't even get to know him. We have no idea
who he is. And then
the
neighbor leaves. Yeah.
I know. I also love the way that Grandpa says, the workshop? Another subtle line that I love that I have never paid attention to is just the idea that Truly says, like, I'm hardly in the mood for a picnic. Sometimes you're not in the mood. Sometimes we don't want to hang out with
lovely, lonely men.
Anything else?
I guess one more shout out for the Baron. When the toy maker is presenting his present, he says, dolls, dolls, I have hundreds of dolls.
This is a movie that has a lot of food, more sweets than food. I'll start off by saying, what did this movie make me want to eat? It's more so, what did they say that made me want to eat, but also had no idea? Sausage tarts, treacle tarts, cherry tarts. There's all these like words that the kids were using. Lots of tarts.
Ambiguous British treats. I'm assuming that there's like flakiness.
I just want like a bowl of cream with some like cherry pie. I feel like
yeah, some version of like that has like a cute British name.
Yes,
that's what I want.
Treacle tarts.
I did look up what a treacle tart is, and I was confused because it looked almost, if you Google it, it looks like pumpkin pie, but I think it's made of lemon and maple syrup or something, but with like a pastry crust. But I would try it.
I would do it. What do we think that a toot sweet tastes like?
A lollipop, maybe?
Yeah.
But could it have like a creaminess to it? Because I feel like the color had a little...
I almost picture it as like a candy cane, but not minty. Yeah. Like a fruity candy cane. I just love saying Lord Scrumptious because it's such a ridiculous name. But I love that when he bites into it, there's no like crunch. So it makes me feel like it's soft, but it can't be soft if you can whistle through it.
Do we think that we could mold like a starburst into something that could whistle?
No, I think that it has to be hard. I feel like it can't be soft. Anything else this movie makes you want to eat?
I don't know. I love that breakfast.
I just love that scene, and I love the.
Oh, how about, can we talk about the big bread that comes out? It's like this big puffy. It's not a loaf. It's like a round.
I was like, I want the breakfast, but I don't want that ugly loaf on the table. It just seems like a very.
It looks like
crumbly.
A prop loaf. It doesn't look.
Yeah, it doesn't look like a real loaf. It looks like they meant to make a puff pastry, but they did it by accident.
Yeah, like a giant puff pastry.
Exactly. I also love, I don't really do this, but I love the idea like breakfast for dinner. It's always a sweet thing.
I do that sometimes.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I wanted to ask about champagne theory. I couldn't call back to a memory of champagne, but I have to assume that Bombi had it at his birthday party. They were drinking out of goblets.
I think that they are drinking mead. I don't think that I don't think that Bulgaria, they're drinking champagne. That's just a feeling that I feel like they drink very heavy red wines there. I know. Sad.
We're debunking the champagne theory with this movie.
I know. Well, technically, if Truly and Mr. Potts get married, they're probably going to have some champagne at their party.
And they have to have champagne.
Yeah, they have to. If they kiss, they got to get married, and then they have to have champagne. So in our spin-off movie that we're going to make with Dick Van Dyke, because he's still alive, we got it. My only critique of Truly as a character, when she goes out to get them food, she comes back with a basket of cabbage. And
that's all we have in Bulgaria is cabbage.
No, in my mind though, I was I always thought growing up that she had a basket of peaches, which I was okay, she went and she did the job. It was worth leaving them alone so they would get kidnapped. But this time that I paid attention, I was she went out and she got a couple heads of cabbage? You didn't have anything else? Also, I'm sure the toy maker had some food up there in his kitchen. He seems like a responsible guy, that he has some breads.
Yes.
Careless. Okay, so for our dinner party this week, I feel like we need to have a Baron-themed birthday party.
Oh, I was going to go a different way, but we can do that.
What do you want to do?
I was thinking I really want to have a seaside picnic.
Oh, this is sweet. All right, I'm going to give you the Baroness and Mr. Coggins.
All right, I'm going to give you the spy. I don't think that they're named, but it's the one where the taller one who says, "This is X speaking." So I call him X the spy, and Cyril's wife. And Cyril is the guy who got his hair cut.
Okay. I'm also going to throw in a fifth person because it's
let's do it.
It needs some eccentricness. I'm going to say Truly as the wind-up doll. So she's in character the whole time with the box. She comes in the box.
She can't separate. She can't leave the pedestal.
No, she has to stay there.
And she can only move in very jaunty motions.
Yeah, and she's very upset because her partner, who's the clown, is not there.
Okay, so to recap, we have the Baroness, Mr. Coggins, we have X the spy, we have Cyril's wife, and we have Truly as the doll in her box.
Yes.
The box is open. We can see her. Yeah, okay.
Okay.
And we're doing an English Seaside picnic.
English Seaside picnic. Beautiful sunny day out. We'll see where the
tide is out.
We'll see where the day takes us. I think that X the spy is a little bit limited because he's on assignment. Although while he's there, he seems to whip out a lot of different props. They magically have the fake drop down for the tunnel. He has a phone. They have different outfit changes. So for someone who's on location, he seems to be very resourceful. So he's not bringing something from Bulgaria with him. I feel like he may go to a pub in town and bring something because he's trying to fit in and doesn't want to give up who he is. He doesn't want them to know he's a spy. So he's in his English manned outfit for this picnic. And I think that he brings a pot pie from one of the pubs in town. And pretty easy to transport. And he just brings an individual one and they all bite into it. And I think that Cyril's wife. Oh yeah, we don't know her. She's just the lady at the fair. She comes off to me like she's a big drinker. I feel like she brings. I feel like last time we incorporated cigarettes, but I'm gonna say that she's bringing lots of cigarettes for everyone to be smoking on the beach because there's no children present. She's trying to have a good time, but they're gonna be rolled cigarettes, not the ones in a pre-pouch. Like she's like rolling cigarettes for everyone. And I think that she's bringing beers. I feel like she's a beer gal. And because we met her at the fair, I only really know her in this environment. And I think she brings like not hot dogs, but like sausage dogs. Like she's ready to kick off summer. And I think that she brings like a bottle of ketchup, like not like little. Actually, no, I think that she brings like ketchup packets. Oh, I brought ketchup packets. So everyone has their own. Like she thinks it's like the most thoughtful thing. So everyone gets their own sausage dog. The works on it. She like pre gets them at the fair, wraps them up, and then brings the condiments separately so it doesn't get soggy. And she's got cigarettes, beer, wrapped sausage dogs, and we also got a chicken pot pie. So this is a meat heavy picnic so far. I hope it's not a hot day because this is not a good hot day without an umbrella meal so far.
Well, it's a good thing we have a big stretch of sand because I'm thinking that the Baroness, I mean, what we know about her is that she's smart enough to stay alive, but she definitely is not like fully like aware of how the normal world works. So, first of all, I think that she's showing up in something that's maybe like a beach version of what we see her wear in the Chitty face scene. So she's doing the braids. I think she has some kind of little like beach bonnet on.
I feel like it's like a red outfit, like I think like an adult, like an X-rated version of what Jemima wears.
Yeah, like a bathing costume.
Yes.
So she's rolling in with that, and I think that even though she heard that this is going to be a beach picnic, like she really only knows how to throw banquets. So she has her staff bring in like a lot of platters of things. So I'm picturing like big, heavy silver platters that have like fruit around the edges, but then like, you know, like pig heads, lamb, and they just kind of like they keep coming, and like no one is interested in them, and she doesn't understand why. She's like, I catered this whole thing. We're having a party. This is what we need.
Don't you feel like she brings like the wood table like on the blimp? She's like, we need to bring in.
They can lower it on the same hook they used to bring Grandma's house up.
Perfect.
Yeah. I love that. I was picturing them lowering the banquet table from the blimp
with the platters on the table already. Everything's preset.
Amazing. And then of course we need the goblets.
Yeah.
And you think it's mead, so we'll go with mead. All right. Now, sadly, I think that Mr. Coggins, I picture him being like a really like wholesome, like nice man, and like he has a family and he works really hard during the week, but I think maybe like his one day off is Sunday, and on Sundays he offers to cook for his wife. Like he cooks like all day, and so he gets really excited when he gets invited to this beach picnic, and he tries to kind of like recreate his Sunday dinners. And I know that we brought this to the table in a recent episode, but I do think that he would try to make like a Sunday roast, like a full Sunday roast. So he cooks it like all day, and he makes the little I don't know what they're called,
like
but
Yorkshire puddings.
Yorkshire puddings. I think that he makes Yorkshire puddings, and they have like vegetables with it, right? Kind of.
I don't know.
Is it like,
I have to
maybe
say,
like peas and carrots.
I tried to make Yorkshire pudding this year. I don't know what I did, but they were not good. So I need some notes from Mr. Coggins.
I think Mr. Coggins has a recipe that's been passed down from generation to generation.
I also feel like he bakes.
Maybe like a pie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And cookies. And I think that he is bringing everything like very thoughtfully plated. Like I think that he has it in family style, but he wants to serve everyone. So he has dishes, and he brings his own flatware, and he wants to make sure that everyone has napkins and that everyone is taken care of. But sadly, like there's so much going on, and I think when it comes down to it, everyone's just gonna want what Cyril's wife brought, because that feels the most like a fun beach weekend meal to me. Just sausages and cigarettes and ketchup packets. So
I
Poor
know.
Mr. Coggins. He's going home with a lot of
Yeah,
leftovers.
he's like, wow, the Baroness really went all out. He's like, I didn't think she would be able to bring all this from her faraway land.
When the junk man shows up on Monday, he's going to be like, here, take some of these leftovers.
Yes.
I made too much.
I know. He's probably going to make a doggy bag. I could also see Coggins jarring his own jam. He feels like a jam jar, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Good call.
And
Good call.
seasonal. So based on the seasons, he
Yes.
switches it up. I love him. I couldn't love him more. I meet him for 5 minutes, but I trust him. He was giving me the same energy that George's dad gives in It's a Wonderful Life.
Yeah. Good call.
Right?
That's exactly
They could be
him.
brothers.
Yes. They could
crossover. Or
yes.
distant relatives. We never know.
So what are we doing with Doll Truly in her
I think
music
that she's
box?
entertainment, but I think that on her break, she grabs a dog. She's like, give me one of those sausage doggies.
Give me one. She extends her
Yes.
hand out to receive the sausage.
But she can't
Does
she can't do the ketchup packet, so Cecil's wife hooks her up. She's like, don't worry, I'll make it for you.
Do you think that she also smokes?
Yes. I think that she definitely has a cigarette. I like this. I like that Doll Truly is like a little trashy.
Fun picnic.
I know, this is great. Okay, so there's this or that. Michelle, are you ready to be on the hot seat first?
I'm ready.
I actually am
I'm
confident because of how much it goes on in this movie. We're going to have very different questions this time around. I'm hopeful.
We have a lot to work with.
Our ESP is not going to kick in. Who would you rather have as your general? Grandpa Potts or Lord Scrumptious?
I'm going to go with Lord Scrumptious because I think that he's a little bit more
stable,
efficient. I think that like I would feel safe under his command.
Okay. You feel like Grandpa Potts would go a little rogue?
I mean, he could take off at any moment.
He's like, I'm going to Alaska.
Go somewhere else.
You guys fight this battle. I'm going to my hut.
Exactly.
Okay. Pick a candy. Toot Sweets or the lollipops from the Child Catcher?
Oh, definitely Toot Sweets.
Yeah.
I'm dying to try one.
Yeah. Those lollipops did not look good.
They
looked very fake.
Plastic.
Yeah.
I'm not even sure that they were real lollipops.
I don't think that they were.
And like even in the story,
No.
I think that they may have been fake.
That's a good point. Okay. Would you rather hang from a Bulgarian blimp in Grandpa's hut? I'm very obsessed with the scene, if you didn't notice. Or would you have to hide in the caves with the children?
So I would be like Grandpa in the posh scene.
Mhm.
So I would like be maybe in the water at points.
Maybe some sharks. The time is unknown. We don't know. We know it's overnight.
Yeah, no, I'm hiding out in the cave
Wow.
and eating cabbage with Peter.
Pick one. An English beach picnic or the Baron's birthday bash, which is on point with our last section.
It is on point. I'm going to go with the English picnic.
Yeah. Okay. Pick an invention. The breakfast contraction or the automatic haircut, assuming it works.
Definitely the breakfast contraption. Yeah. Are you ready to
Mhm.
hop into the hot seat? It might be Cyril's haircutting seat. I'm on fire.
Yes.
Okay. Where would you rather sleep on a rainy night? In Grandpa's house or in Caractacus's workshop?
I think Caractacus's workshop, because my story is that like I'm an inventor, so I'm up all night anyway, tinkering around.
Which invention would you rather pitch on the show Shark Tank? Whistling sweets or the automatic haircutting machine?
Whistling sweets. Because I think that the sharks would be like, no, because people love their going to their hair salon, where whistling sweets are not. There's a market for candy, we know, and there's a market for instruments. They would look at it as more marketable.
Would you rather have to perform Meal Bamboo at the fair or do a solo number as a singing doll at the Baron's birthday party?
The old bamboo. I know it. I know it well.
Like I
can do it right now. I've been practicing my whole life. And also I can blend in more.
Would you rather be known as a lovely, lonely man or go by the nickname Choochie Face?
Lovely, lonely man.
Would you rather be named Caractacus or Truly?
Truly. Because at least people would make fun of you for both, but Caractacus people wouldn't be able to pronounce.
Yeah.
And I would have a fear that people will call me crackpot, and I don't want to be called crackpot. And rather than be like, oh wow, that woman's parents hate her and they called her Truly.
Would you rather have a car that flies or floats?
Flies. Even though there's a lot of issues with air travel right now, but that could solve it because it would be able to get me there. I could come see you when I want. This is in a world
where it's safe, but you're the only one with the capabilities.
Yeah. No one's going to be in my path.
The sky is yours.
There's a lot of unknowns with the ocean. Okay, so Michelle, next week, are we very excited to talk about the movie Annie? It's going to be great.
I'm very excited. This is another Michelle young childhood favorite. Yeah. So I'm excited to revisit it. I've also not seen it in a really long time. Yes. So hopefully it'll be as fun as this week was.
I think it will be. Maybe a little bit sadder, but just as fun. All right. Well, we'll see you then.
See you then.